Good evening, everybody. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com, live in Minneapolis, where the biting, stinging burn of your frostbite is what keeps you warm. Here at Williams Arena at the University of Minnesota. Obviously, the barn, as you might know it, I know it as the erector set because you go up to go down, you go left to go right. This is the most confusing place in the Big Ten. I've only been here like 15, 16 times, whatever it is, maybe not that much. And I still have no idea how to get to the damn media room that I'm looking at right here. Anyway, Purdue wins 88-73. This is your rap video. It's brought to you by our friends at the Purdue Club Hotel and the 811 Bistro. And I'll tell you once again that if there was a Purdue Club Hotel at the University of Minnesota, surprisingly there's not, that's where I'd be staying. Next time you're at Purdue, I think that's where you should be staying. I just came up with that. Anyway, Purdue again wins 88-73. I think that this game was never really in doubt. This was a relatively one-sided game. Minnesota did get within 7 in the second half. I don't think anybody really should have been too uncertain as to who ultimately was going to win this game, but it did get within 7, and that's something that I think a layer of impressiveness about this win, and otherwise relatively machine-like, business-like, sort of nondescript kind of win over a team that you should have beaten pretty handily. I think Ben Johnson's doing a really good job here. I think they started the season really strong with what really amounts to a transfer portal pickup team. They lost everybody from last year after Richard Pitino got canned. He brings in basically a whole new team. They start really strong. That's a really hard position to be in. They start the season really strong. They were one of college basketball's best success stories early on. Reality kind of sets in, as it so often does in Big Ten play when things get really real. But I think a layer of impressiveness for Purdue does lie in the fact that it took a special shooting night from Minnesota, 11 of 22 from 3. I don't know what that was at one point. It was a lot better than that from a percentage standpoint. But they shot way over their heads on their home floor, and Purdue won by 15. And, you know, Purdue's taken some pretty hard hits from people on their home floors this season. Penn State had that run in the last 6-7 minutes of the game, whatever it was, that Purdue weathered and won anyway. Illinois had that stretch where they made a lot of tough shots. Purdue won anyway. I think that, you know, Purdue's not necessarily been consistent in terms of not getting shook by things. You know, the final 10 minutes of the first half at Indiana, certain situations at Rutgers. I hate to keep falling back on the losses because then I look like a hater. Somebody will call me a hater, but whatever that means. But I think the losses can be more instructive, you know, than the successes. But in this case, the losses are instructive, but the wins too, I think, need to be kept in mind here because Purdue's taken some really hard runs from people on their home floors and bounced back from them and won those games anyway. I think that deserves mention because that is significant. And I don't think this game was ever really in doubt, but for Minnesota to shoot the way they shot today and Purdue to basically blow them out anyway, I don't know if I'd call this a blowout, but whatever, was really something that reflected well on Purdue, I think. I think Purdue was businesslike. I think Purdue was professional. I think this was the ultimate phone-in sort of situation. The crowd here wasn't exactly energized. It was a 6 p.m. local start. It's freezing here. Freezing. Purdue's not going home tonight because of the weather. Obviously, this was a situation where Purdue could have, a less mature team could have just phoned this one in, and you know, I don't think Purdue did that, as evidenced by the fact that they were razor sharp offensively to start the game. Really never looked back. I think they deviated a little bit from what they were doing to get off to that hot start. I think Jaden Ivey sometimes has a want to throw the knockout punch when the opponent's on the ropes, and I think maybe they Purdue got away from it a little bit there after the run to start the game, but I think Purdue flipped right back to it real quick and showed some self-awareness about them that they could get refocused and really kind of put this game away in the first half. I don't know if they necessarily did, but they put their best foot forward in that regard. 51 first half points. Again, whether they get 48 at Iowa on the road, that's a pretty good deal. Not that Minnesota and Iowa are going to be confused for whoever, Texas Tech and Name somebody else who's really good on defense. Them. But I think that one of the biggest takeaways from this game too is the fact that Purdue is really good on offense. I think we already knew that all along. But Purdue at its best is the best offensive basketball team in college basketball. I think. I don't know who would be second. So take that comment, take that take with a grain of salt. It's basically just a salacious comment I'm making for attention. Anyway. Part of the thing with Purdue offensively, too, is the fact that I think Purdue these last few weeks has had upside to it because I think Jaden Ivey and Zach Edey, people kind of tend to look at them because they're so good so fast as finished products. They most certainly are not. Jaden Ivey is getting better every game, I think. Zach Edey is getting better every game. Zach Edey, the physical tone he's been playing with lately that he's set in games has been enormous for Purdue. No pun intended, because he happens to be enormous. Jaden Ivey. Look, you have seen him the last 2 games so often drive to the basket, get in the lane, jump stop, like that, come down on 2 feet, play under control, finish at the basket. And these were things he wasn't doing even a few weeks ago. He was kind of barreling to the basket and throwing caution to the wind, putting his life probably in his own hands against certain teams, and he just is playing with a poise and a control now that I think screams of a player who is figuring it out, and that is scary as hell because that dude is so talented, and I think he's still learning how to play, and I think you're seeing progress there. You saw progress tonight with his patience, with how he conducted himself against the zone. I thought this was one of his better passing games. He's getting better. Zach Edey's getting better. Those are 2 really big pieces for Purdue that are improving. And as the pieces improve, the collective improves too. So not only is Purdue one of the best teams in college basketball right now, maybe the best offensive team in college basketball right now, but they're not even a finished product, I don't think. And I think that's something that people have to keep in mind as well when kind of viewing Purdue and their outlook sort of moving forward. This is kind of weird. Anyway, I think that I just got done talking about Jaden Ivey and Zach Edey, but I think the whole team, did its part in this one too. I think Purdue's got so many guys who can shoot, and they have guys who are making a ton of shots right now who, when you came into the season, you weren't even expecting, Eric Hunter to be shooting 65% from three-point range, if it's not 70 at this point. I don't even know what it is right now. I haven't checked the updated stats, but it's probably in the ballpark of 70. I don't think anybody was looking at Mason Gillis as a guy who was going to get you 2 threes a game at least, and I kind of figured he'd probably shoot 40% for the season, but he'd take 1 a game, that kind of thing. He's becoming a volume guy, and he's doing it well. Sasha Stefanovic. This is, we talk about Ivey and Edey and Eric Hunter especially today. Sasha Stefanovic, 6 of 9 from the floor, 15 points, 7 assists, 0 turnovers, made 3 threes on 6 attempts. That's damn near a perfect game for him. I mean, not perfect. He missed a shot, but you don't get a whole lot better than this. That is low volume, high efficiency, tons of ball movement, no turnovers, no mistakes, just a great game from Sasha Stefanovic. Nobody's even going to talk about tomorrow because of the guys who were the stars in this game, and that was Eric Hunter. This is one of the kind of really neat developments of the season for Purdue here, the way he's played the last 7 or 8 games or so. He was awesome tonight. I mean, it's simply awesome. Not just shooting, but facilitating, leading Purdue's offense, defending, just playing really well, not just scoring. I know it's the scoring that jumps out. It's the shot making that jumps out. He has been a dead-eye shooter here for the better part of the Big Ten season, but he's playing really well, and he's bringing real stability to that position. I'm not saying it wasn't necessarily stable before, but I think he's bringing a little bit more to the position than maybe Purdue had earlier in the season when, I always viewed Isaiah Thompson as kind of a ball manager, a guy who fit in really well next to Jaden Ivey as kind of a knockdown shooter, a nice complementary piece to Jaden Ivey. Somebody who could give you some quickness on the ball, things like that. But what Eric Hunter's bringing is commanding play at that position, and I think that's been a development that has brought Purdue from one level to another. And obviously time will tell whether this can be sustained the entire rest of the year, but 7 games, like 6 of which Hunter's been really good in, or 7 of 8, whatever it is, that's a pretty big sample size. That's damn near half your Big Ten season, or a third of your Big Ten season. And if somebody is something over 8 games, it's not unreasonable to think that he's going to be that player the majority of the time out the rest of the way. And if that's the case, and Purdue is already, as good as Purdue is, and Jaden Ivey's getting better, and Zach Edey's getting better, and Eric Hunter has suddenly transformed into a really, really good player. I'm not saying he wasn't a really good player before, but obviously the last season and a half, didn't go the way he probably envisioned. And I think a lot goes into that. Getting hurt last year didn't help him. I think learning to fit in next to Jaden Ivey, I think, was an adjustment for him. Jaden Ivey is such a brilliant player and such a guy that requires everybody else to kind of fit in around him. I think that was an adjustment for Hunter. Coming off the bench the first half of this season was a real adjustment for Hunter, and I don't think you can really say he deserved to be starting when he wasn't playing terribly well coming off the bench earlier in the year. But he has really figured it out now, whatever it was that needed to be figured out, if anything. But he's just really come on, and he has really made Purdue a better team today than it was just a few weeks ago. So I think, something that needs to be mentioned about this game too is, look, Zach Edey's really good, and Travion Williams didn't have his best game today. This was a very quiet game. I think he might have had some foul trouble. Only played 13 minutes. I don't remember what the circumstances were. Yes, he had 4 fouls, so that's probably why he didn't play as much. But who did Purdue go to when they needed to put this game away, as they've done so many times during Travion Williams' career? Obviously, it didn't work at Indiana, but his body of work in this regard, you go to him in situations where you need baskets, you need to put a game away, you need to win a game, whatever it is, and he's come through so often in his career. That stretch where he accounted for basically 7 straight Purdue points, either off assists or baskets, that made damn certain that this somehow didn't get to be like a 5-point game with 4 minutes to go. And as you heard after Rutgers, if you let a team hang around, crazy stuff happens. And it was Travion Williams who did not let Minnesota hang around, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. He won't even make the game stories tomorrow, most likely, except from me, because I have so much space I need to fill. I have so many boxes I need to check from a content perspective. But I think he really deserves special mention because he was great when Purdue needed a closer once again. So I need a closer right now because I'm done. So I'm going to go back out into the out into the Yukon out there. I cannot believe how cold it gets up here. It is incredible. Anyway, wish me luck getting home to West Lafayette. I've already folded the tents and decided to get a hotel at Midway tomorrow night, so I'll just work there tomorrow because I don't want to mess with I-65. These are the joys of covering Big Ten basketball, traveling from city to city in the Midwest in January and February. It is, what the hell am I doing with my life? All right, this has been your wrap video from Purdue's 88-73 win at Minnesota. Thank you for watching. Thank you for reading. Thank you for listening. And thank you for processing our materials, however it is you process our materials. And thank you to the Purdue Union Club Hotel and the 811 Bistro for your continued support. We appreciate it very much. And I will talk to you guys again this weekend. I don't know when the game is. I'll find that out when I get back to town. I think it's Saturday, Sunday against Michigan. So thanks, everybody. Take care.